Good afternoon, greater Philadelphia area. This is Toole Time Real Estate Radio on WWDB 860 AM. I'm Tom Toole. She's Sarah Tymon. We both work at the Tom Toole Sales Group at RE/MAX Mainline, the number one RE/MAX team in Pennsylvania since 2018. And we have a whole bunch of stuff we're going to cover today, real estate related, starting with rates coming down into the mid-sixes, an analysis of who are the buyers in the market right now who are taking out mortgages, as well as the idea of the new era of real estate and who's going to be the agents of change, and also a little holiday weekend prep for consumers and for real estate agents. We'll break it all down next. If you get some value out of this, you like what you hear, make sure to subscribe to the channel, hit the bell for notifications, and if you want to schedule a call with our team and Sarah specifically to talk about your real estate needs, make sure to click on the link in the comments. So, Sarah, we saw rates come down last week to about 6.5%. What's the temperature been? I mean, you were like a bat out of hell this weekend in the real estate field. And I think I was sending you a message like Sunday night or something like that. So, obviously, we're seeing activity. What's that been like in the field? We're seeing local quotes of 6.5%. Seems like a lot of people have woken up here. Is it seasonality? Is it rates? Is it both? Tell us what you're seeing.
I think it's a combination of a couple things. For the clients that I got under contract over the past week, the dip in rates was certainly a pleasant surprise, but definitely was not the driving factor in their decision or what their offer was. It was nice to see that little dip and be able to show those savings, but I think their rate or like their offer would have been the same regardless if they had this little dip or not.
Okay, so you're saying the rates helped, but the demand was still there. And I think that's more of a symptom of it's the middle and end of May. This is when a lot of people make decisions. I would also argue this is a result of all the work that you've been putting in. I know our team's been doing this for like months about talking to people, getting them ready for what's going on in the market, and now it just happens to be the time when a lot of this stuff tends to pop. I don't know, like how aged are these folks that are transacting right now, and then we can get into some of the data.
You mean like how long have I been working with them?
Yeah, like when was the first conversation with some of them? How long have you been following up? And then there's a long funnel with some of these folks.
Yeah. The most recent one that I got under contract, I think I probably started talking to them in January.
Okay.
But they were motivated from the beginning. We had put in several very good offers prior to this one that ultimately got accepted. Trying to think. Some others were a little bit newer.
Well, there's one that came out of the woodwork.
Yes.
Out of nowhere.
Yeah. And then a few were people that I'd actually talked to like last year and then kind of put their foot on the brake for kind of a significant amount of time and then, came back to the market. Okay.
So it sounds like a mix, and that's usually the answer, right? It's always the cumulative effort of things that happen. So, what we're seeing, I believe, is that this is, May is a time when you typically should be selling a lot of houses. If you want to be in real estate, you need to be busy this time of year. And if you look at some of the national and local housing data, what we saw last week with rates coming down, we saw that new single-family home listings were still climbing. They were at 67,530 is the number that we saw in terms of the new listings data for the last week. So national new single-family home listings that were on the market. We're also seeing more price cuts than last year, and that might have something to do with this increase in pending sales. We saw 34% of homes had a price cut nationally versus 30% this time last year and 22% in 2022. So with these offers that were signed, I know what the team data looks like. Were they all like at asking? Were they above, below? Like, what were the situations? Can you give us like a couple examples?
Yeah, one was below. And let's see, I think the others were all above. But not all, and some of them were significantly above. Mm-hmm. Others were just like, more than like $5,000 above, I would say, but
sure.
Not, like
a normal amount above, yeah.
Over, yeah. Well, although some of them were.
Well, and those homes that go that far above, I mean, I know the property you're talking about. I thought it was kind of priced low when I saw
Right.
that was my view, and so I think it's
Well, and it was priced right at a cutoff of another like $100,000 increment. You know, so I think that was certainly a strategy, an effective strategy by the listing agent and the seller.
Agreed. And it sounds like I was privy to the conversations. I know you kind of prepped those folks pretty aggressively to get that. So that's kind of in line with the data. So, I mean, if you look at, you sold a handful of homes this weekend, I think it was 3 or 4 over the past 7 days, with 34% having a price cut. That's right in line with like 1 out of 4, 1 out of 3. The data lines up. It's never going to be exact.
Although like the one that we got that was under had not done a price cut, but we, I think we got in at the right time to get our offer accepted, because oftentimes if there is a price cut, everything's situational, but it can spur competition back up and drive it back up again. So I think we got it at like the sweet spot.
Well, and that's being a smart agent. I mean, so many people, we were talking about it today, so many people are afraid to make these lower offers. And Ed from our team was discussing how he knew he had an overpriced listing and really prompted people to write an offer and ended up getting it under contract. So what this tells me is that there maybe is a little more flexibility in pricing than we've seen for a while, and people out there are motivated to do deals. And the drop in rates might be a factor, especially for those sellers looking to go somewhere else. So so with that, I mean, we're seeing a pop in activity, and we're seeing more homes with price cuts. What are you doing to tell your folks right now that maybe have been on the fence about the dip in rates? Are you having any conversations with them? Is this something you're alerting people to? What's your strategy there? And I want to share a couple things that I think consumers should be aware of once you kind of share that.
Yeah. So, I mean, with some of my people that I've been talking to for a longer time, I like to make them aware when there was a dip in rates, but I almost don't want to focus too heavily on that, because we've had a number of instances, over the last few months where they go up, they go down, and I don't want them to think because you're in a pocket where if it popped up a little bit, that now it's no longer a good time. So I like to, let them know what is going on with rates, but maybe drive them more with kind of case studies and what I'm seeing from clients that I'm working with, and kind of bring it back to motivation and like, what does getting into the home mean to you, and like how we can make that work.
Recession buster rule number 1 is motivation matters. I know we talked about that a while ago. I was talking with a brokerage in right outside Detroit yesterday about this, that if they're motivated, you just got to kind of keep everyone moving forward. And it's tough to do. You mentioned some of these folks, they actually lost out on an offer. So a lot of what you're seeing is kind of what I anticipate, where there's not like one thing that's doing all this. This isn't like 3% rates, everyone's coming out of the woodwork.
Right.
Been there, done that, right? Yeah. We're in a spring selling season. There's people that are motivated, and while you want to let people know about rates, I don't think you should ever buy a home because of rates.
Right.
And so I think that's really smart advice on your part. And there was a study out there that BAM did, which I found pretty interesting. It was actually from a Redfin report. They summarized it, that showed younger Americans were more likely to take out mortgages in 2023. The lion's share was 39.7% were buyers under 35, and buyers from 35 to 44 were 26.5%. So that's, if you do the math here, I mean, you're talking about basically 2/3, roughly, of people that took out mortgages were 44 or less. And then there was 16.1% were issued to buyers 45 to 54, 10.8% 55 to 64, 5.4% 65 to 74. And you know what I see happening here, and I think this is something that we've been talking about for a while, is that the people that are really buyers right now, like there's always the downsized buyer, and that has to do with like health or family or something like that. The people that want to move up are the ones that are really anxious here. Mm-hmm. And I don't, if you were to put the folks you put under contract these past 7 days in a bucket, was it mostly move up? Was it move down? What were you seeing? Like, I mean, or even like a first time buyer that didn't own anything but was maybe a little later in life?
Let's see. I think first-time buyer, several first-time buyers. One was kind of a different situation that was kind of lateral, and definitely like an upsize or like a move up.
Well, and that sounds like it's all in line with this data here.
Yeah.
And that to me is the people that have the most motivation, because when your home gets too small, those folks are like, I'm out. I can't deal with it. And they get to the like the screw it phase where they lose out on a couple properties and they're just like, right, like we got to get the next one if we like it. So that's pretty interesting. So for your client roster right now, are you seeing it's a lot of people in that like millennial, Gen Z sort of age bracket? Or do you see anyone that's maybe in like the boomers or Gen X age bracket? What are you seeing for the most part?
I would say more so the younger brackets, but I am definitely working with clients who are, I think I've got one boomer client. And yeah, I would say more so the younger categories, the millennials,
if you look at the stats, right, this is why it's so interesting, and we'll talk about what this means in a second here. Home ownership rates by generation, 79% were baby boomers, 72% Gen Xers. I guess that's what I fall into. And 55% millennials. You can tell everyone where you fall. I'm not going to mention any comments about age, Sarah. That's not appropriate.
I forget which one I am.
And then 26% of Gen Zers own their home. But it looks like what's happening here is there's a portion of millennials that just didn't buy anything, right? Yeah. And now they're like, oh, I have kids now. I have a family. This doesn't make sense. Gen Zers, I mean, they're first-time buyers. Sounds like you're dealing with a lot of those. So what I see happening for the market here is we see inventory start to grow a little bit. Year to date, we're up 6.7% in Pennsylvania. And just to give some perspective for the Bright MLS, we get this beautiful week-over-week data, which I find to be really, really helpful. And it's basically a weekly market report that Bright will put together. And if you look at the greater Philadelphia area, the Philly metro area, that's really what we want to focus on here. They will tell us exactly what this looks like. So the weekly snapshot for the metro Philadelphia area, to give some perspective here, is, hold on. So for the entire Bright MLS, we're seeing that new listings were up 1.5%. We're seeing active listings are up 16.7%. So as we see active listings grow, right, and I think that's what really is going to be the most important thing here, I think you're going to see more and more of these people that are in millennials and Gen Z start to get into the market because they're seeing options again. Because that's been the biggest frustration for them. And a lot of people, they kicked the can down the road and they decided to rent for a year or two. So as we get into this, second half of the year, because we're basically done, I'd be looking at what people maybe put off a decision, what people like set an appointment with you, you showed some homes, and you've had a lot of these kind of folks boomerang back in where you worked with them last year, nothing happened, and then they came back into the picture. That's going to be where lead follow-up is going to matter. And if you were one of those people that was turned off by rates or turned off by inventory, I'd be all over this 6.5% payment right now.
Yeah.
So have you had any like other conversations like that, Sarah? Like tell us a little bit more about what you see, you forecast for your business over the next 90 days. Do you have more happening than what's just going on? Do you see more of this stuff coming to the pike now that rates are coming down a little bit? What's your crystal ball say here?
I don't know if this is exactly the answer that you're looking for, but
I'm not looking for an answer.
Always important to like keep your pipeline going and keep the touches happening with people because, you need to always have people that you're working with.
Sure.
So yeah, certainly reaching out and letting everybody know what's going on. But yeah, and it is interesting sometimes having conversations with people who did, not move forward for the last like 3 years because of like different reasons. And then being like, I wish I would have done this 3 years ago, So I feel like there's always different things that are going on that can kind of prevent you from moving forward and doing it. But ultimately, I think it's usually motivation that ends up having you do something.
Yeah.
Something needs to be done.
Well, and a lot of times too, maybe it wasn't like things change for people a lot. So I'm just looking at anyone that took the time to like meet with you at some point. It might have been the market. There was a lot of that happened. So the more we can educate folks, the better off we're going to be. And I, to me, like a couple of years ago, if someone wasn't ready in like the next like 90 days, like people were like, oh, well, I don't have time for that. If someone tells me they're thinking about moving in a year, like I'm all over that at this point, especially if it's a potential seller. And just to get the local stats here week over week, we saw active listings compared to a year ago, we're up 10.1% in the Philadelphia metro market, and that includes Chester, Delaware, Montgomery, Bucks, Mercer counties, Burlington, Camden, and Gloucester in South Jersey, and Newcastle and Kent in Delaware. We're also seeing canceled listings are up 10.8%. That's pretty interesting. That tells me there's some unrealistic sellers out there right now. That's a much more normal number than what we've looked at. Median time to contract is basically the same. New purchase contracts are up 4.8%. And what was also interesting, it looks like showings are down a little bit compared to where they were in 2023. And that's kind of been the trend overall, except like the beginning of April there. So, I mean, I think people are being a little more intentional with what they're looking at as well. So, with inventory growing, with, rates coming down, what advice do you have for the people that are maybe thinking about doing something in the next 6 to 18 months? What are you telling them if you field this call right now?
Yeah, I mean, I can tell them what we know is going on right now, what we're kind of anticipating for the future, but that like right now this is what's going on. And if it doesn't make sense for somebody to do something for a year or for 18 months, I mean, time goes by very quickly. So if they are somebody that also is a seller, having those touch points throughout is important, and reminding them kind of that, listen, the sooner I get in and see the home, I can give you advice on, if there are things that you need to do in order to prep to list it so that it doesn't feel so rushed. Like if you wait until, all right, and I want to list in 30 days, that can feel pretty overwhelming. So depending on like the personality and all of that, just kind of trying your best to get in there sooner rather than later so that you have, you kind of have like a list for them if there is stuff to be done, and making sure to continue to check in over the course of that time so that you're top of mind.
Yeah, I mean, that's probably the biggest mistake, because I think sometimes like things just happen out of nowhere and people are ready to go. I think of one person in particular, you know who I'm talking about, where a normal call that had nothing to do with real estate turned into some business, and that can be an exciting thing if you do the right, like your intent is to call that, not to go prospect for business, but just to maintain a relationship with folks. The other interesting piece of data I'm looking at here, and this is the weekly purchase contracts. So we're seeing that number has been trending above 2023 levels in the Philadelphia metro area since about the end of April. And I know we're seeing that from a team standpoint. I think we sold like 8 homes yesterday. Like, I mean, it was pretty bananas. And you look at showings being down. So what I'm seeing here is that there may be less people out there kind of looking. I also think the NAR settlement has something to do with this, that people are a little more careful about, having these conversations up front with folks. And I think that's actually going to be a good thing for agents, which we can discuss as well. But the selling, you mentioned sellers there. And if you're a potential seller right now, and you're going to have to bear with me, my voice is shot in case you haven't noticed.
Yeah, that's fine.
It's got to love when the kids get you sick, and it goes around like the entire Little League team and everyone else.
Oh, yeah.
So just wait. It's coming your way. It's heading east. So with sellers, what I see here is that, prices, I don't see there's any question they're going to continue to rise at a more normal clip. I'm looking at the inventory that's growing and seeing that we're seeing these inventory numbers up substantially. I mean, even if you look at the weekly active listings, it's been trending well above 2022 and 2023 levels since about the middle of February in the Philadelphia metro area. So that's pretty fascinating data. And then you're seeing, okay, well, but showings are down, right? There's more listings, showings are down, and contracts are up. I'm looking at this thinking, well, it looks like we're at the beginning of a shift. And not that it's a shift to a bad market, but a more normal market, and sellers may not be able to expect these wave contingencies above. I mean, you had a whole gamut of different deals you put together. I didn't hear it wasn't all the same. It was a lot of negotiating, somewhere a little competitive, somewhere a lot competitive. So if I'm a seller, I'm paying close attention to that, because there's going to be an opportunity here between now and, really like the end of July to take advantage of this, especially with like the school year and that stuff that happens. So I'd be thinking about moving up my time frame if I already have a place to go as a seller. And if I don't have a place to go, I'm trying to go find that. So
Right.
you can take advantage on both sides here. So that and really it's planning, like getting in front of someone, having a planning meeting, discussing what's going on in the market. As we're at the beginning of this sort of shift, to me, it's going to be really important, especially with lower rates. It's going to bring more folks back to the market.
Yeah.
All right, so let's take a quick break. We're going to come back. We are going to discuss being the agent of change in this new era of real estate on Tool Time Real Estate Radio on WWDB 860 AM.
For the best local mortgage service and great rates on your money, look no further than Mortgage America. We've been operating in the greater Philadelphia area for 40 years with a focus on smooth, easy access to home purchasing. Whether you're a first-time buyer, upsizing or downsizing, or just refinancing, we have programs for you. We also have closing cost assistance programs and access to subsidized interest rates. Pre-approval is free, no costs or commitments. To learn more, visit our website at mymortgageamerica.com or give us a call at 610-439-8000. We always have a person available to take your call with around-the-clock human service. Purchase your home with the personalized local service you find at Mortgage America.
Mortgage America is an equal housing lender. NMLS 128501.
Have you considered a career in real estate? Do you want control over your income? Whether you have a license or not, call us today at 610-692-6976 or visit TomToole.com. Join our team, the Tom Toole Sales Group at RE/MAX Main Line.
I'm Tom Toole of the Tom Toole Sales Group at RE/MAX Main Line. If you're thinking of becoming a real estate agent in the greater Philly area, I have a special offer for you. Our team did $165 million of volume in 2021, making us the #1 RE/MAX team in Pennsylvania and a top 1% team nationally. Our agents love us because we offer them a successful career, a great life, and an unbeatable culture. Agents who've been with us for at least a year average 30-plus sales. Even our brand new agents average 17 to 24 sales a year. We offer proven systems and expert training. We help you set more appointments and sell more houses. Now here's the offer. If you don't have a real estate license yet, we offer real estate scholarships so you can get one for free. Check it out at realestatescholarshipprogram.com or visit the Tom Toole Sales Group at RE/MAX Main Line at tomtoole.com. That's tomtoole.com. Get more out of your real estate career, and remember the real estate golden rule. You always get more when you work with Tom Toole.
When you're getting a mortgage, you shouldn't have to sacrifice great service just to get a great rate. At Mortgage America, we've been lending with this philosophy for over 35 years. We have access to great low rates without the complications and delays of big or online banks. We're a local Pennsylvania lender with loan officers that you can actually meet. As PHFA's #1 lender, we specialize in all residential mortgage programs, including first-time buyer programs and low down payment options. For your free pre-approval, call us at 610-439-8000 or apply online at mymortgageamerica.com. Mortgage America is an equal housing lender. NMLS 128501.
We are back on Tool Time Real Estate Radio on WWDB 860 AM. I'm Tom Toole. She's Sarah Tymon. We both work at the Tom Toole Sales Group at RE/MAX Main Line, the #1 RE/MAX team in Pennsylvania since 2018, and we are going to be talking about being the agents of change. My friend, accountability buddy, co-founder over at BAM, Broke Agent Media, Byron Lazine put this together, and we're also going to cover how to get prepped as a client and as a real estate agent for the upcoming holiday weekend on Friday. If you like what you hear, you get some value out of this, make sure to subscribe to the channel, hit the bell for notifications, and if you want to schedule a call to talk about your real estate needs, you can talk to Sarah directly by doing that with a link in the comments. So, you know, the NAR lawsuit, I mean, this has been, I see so many positives coming out of this. Like, I cannot stress this enough. Everyone else is like freaking out. They don't agree with this. And, you know, there's two schools of thought, right? So, you know, we've seen a lot of things change in real estate over time. And with this, you know, there's, with the changes shaking out, you know, I don't think anyone knows what the next 10 years are going to look like, but we know it's going to change. And there's really like two sides of this debate. One is what's changing for me, meaning like the agent, the business owner, the real estate agent. The other is what about the consumer? And a lot of people are worried about the agent side instead of the consumer side. Now, I feel a little differently about this because I see this as a big win for a lot of these buyers that are out there, because sometimes they just don't know what's going on. I think of a situation you ran into a couple weeks ago. Mm-hmm. People have no idea what they're getting into by looking at a house, and this has been going on throughout time.
Right.
So, you know, what's your take on what this means for the consumer moving forward with these changes coming out of the NAR settlement?
Honestly, I kind of think it'll be more like still the agent having to like educating the clients on what's going on, because if this isn't what you're doing, like, well, you may hear some headlines now. If you're, a year from now going to like dip your toe into the housing market, I don't think you're suddenly going to be clear on what all is going on, Like, I think it's still going to be...
That's a good point.
You're going to have the conversations, which, you should be having anyway. But I don't think that just consumers are now going to know what's up.
Well,
my guess.
That's a great point, because I remember during the pandemic, like I'm talking like the part where you couldn't like leave your house, like the worst part.
I remember it.
Yeah, it sucked. So I went over to my cousin's house, because I was supposed to stay home. And so I have a lot of real estate family. I have my dad, obviously, my two aunts, his sisters, and then one of their sons. We're all real estate agents. Ron, you don't know his brother, and his brother is a scientist, right? Mm-hmm. And we're over there, like he opened the pool up, like the whole thing, and the kids are running around having fun. And he's like, "Oh, what'd you do today?" And I'm like, and he's like, "Why are you like all like riled up?" I'm like, "Well, we can't work." And meanwhile, he works at him and his wife both work at GlaxoSmithKline, so they're working the entire time. He was actually going in one day a week and doing some stuff.
Yeah.
He's like, "What do you mean?" And he had no idea. So think about all the people he knows that are real estate. He had no clue.
Yeah.
Because he is not in the market. It wasn't even on his radar.
Right.
I think that's a really great point, Sarah, because that's someone that's well-informed, has a lot of connections, and you got other stuff you're worrying about.
They may know from headlines that something's changed, but beyond that, I don't know that they would know what has changed or what that means for them.
Well, that's a really great way to look at it. And so I like the education first part, and I think Phil Jones said aim to educate, not to close, which I think is a great way to do it. So then what Byron did, he talked about this on the BAM YouTube channel about the Zillow home touring agreement, and that sparked a little bit of a lively debate. I mean, say whatever you want about that touring agreement. It's going to be illegal in some states. Like Virginia already came out and said it's going to void E&O insurance. Our attorney said in Pennsylvania you're going to need a buyer agency contract anyway, so it doesn't really matter. But the comments were pretty fascinating, and he literally did a whole response to all these comments. And here's an example. I don't think it's good for consumers to buy a house without a consultation. So what? Are you going to make that the law, like forcing the consumer to consult with an agent before buying a home? I don't think you can even do that. It's like the person that wants to do their own taxes. Like it's. Right. I think that's a horrible idea. Yeah. I would never try to do my own taxes, but people do it, and you can't force people to do things. So I think as you talk about educating, I think there's a group of people that are just upset about the way things are changing, and if you get upset about that, that's the same person that's upset like their business is failing instead of trying to figure out what to do with it. So when you talk about education, like, so what's your approach going to be, Sarah? You've since the day I met you, you've been very consumer friendly. I remember hearing stories about you working with like a pizza guy to get his credit card machine to work, and like most people wouldn't do that. So I mean, you're very consumer friendly. So what's your approach going to be? I mean, I know we've trained on this, but you've probably got at least some idea what you're going to be doing.
Honestly, I don't know that much will change with my business, aside from making sure to have, like, as of right now, aside from, making sure to have that agency agreement signed prior to going to look at homes, because I am somebody that typically was not, there are some agents that now, prior to this law getting changed, have always said, I'm not taking someone out without a agreement. Like, and I didn't really fall into that bucket. I usually wanted to go out, get some FaceTime, and then, typically the times that the agency agreements were getting signed were either when we put in an offer for a home, or if it had been like a lot of showings where it's like, okay, let's like get you onboarded officially as a client, and, make sure to some degree that I am protecting myself. But I think I've always been, for the most part, very client-focused to begin with. So I don't know that that's going to really be a huge change for me.
That's probably why you've navigated the valley of death in real estate and are still standing. Because, and I say this, half jokingly, but you hear people, they ask questions like, are you pre-approved? Are you working with, like, this is like the first question they ask somebody.
Right.
Can you imagine, let's jump in a time machine. You meet Eric for the first time, right? This is your husband. So people like, hey, Sarah, how much money do you make? I know you guys were younger, but imagine that, right? Like, it's like, what are you talking about? And I think
Right.
that's what a lot of agents do.
Yeah.
Or like, hey, are you single or are you dating somebody? Like, I mean, it's like, whoa. Like, I don't even know who you are.
Yeah.
So I think that what you're talking about is very right on the point there. I tend to agree with you that you got to look at, like, what does the consumer want? How can I help them get what they want? How can I meet them there? And how can I personalize the experience? Because if you have like that serve mindset, it makes the decision, and you think about, like, this is the long game. Like, so one of the pieces of language I've said to people is, hey, we don't want to be sold. And I've told them, we don't want you to buy the next house. We want you to buy the right house.
Right.
And, I think that sort of mindset, remember, this isn't your money. It's their money.
Right.
It's their investment. And we're here to serve and help them guide and make a good investment. So I tend to agree with your approach a lot. And if you do that, I mean, all the paperwork's going to fall into place. Like, I don't think it's going to be that much of an issue because these are the rules that we have to follow right now.
Yeah.
And I'd imagine there's going to be some people that aren't going to follow them.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's a guarantee.
Yeah.
No matter what happens here. And, if you take that service mindset, that's one of our core values is service, right? And I think that's going to be really important. So not much is going to change, some scripting, some dialogue. So you get, I could not agree with this more. And I think the more people that adopt that, they're the ones that are going to sell a lot of houses.
Right. The one thing that I think could be slightly, I guess, a little bit more complicated is, like, in my head, as I'm thinking about, like, when these changes go through, how is my process, like, going to change in terms of prepping for a listing or, like, prepping to take buyers to a showing and, like, just thinking out, like, when you're doing the estimated cost sheets and whatnot, if there are homes that are not going to offer a buyer's agency comp, I would like to know that. I feel like before taking them out, just so that I can prep them on that piece. And I just feel like that's something that they should know before seeing it.
I totally agree with you.
And I can see, there's some cases where you see a property is coming soon. It's not hitting the market for a week. You've got all kinds of time to, like, get the disclosures, get the information. Like, if you need to hear something from the agent, my, like, thing that I'm thinking is, all right, what if it's 10 o'clock on Tuesday night and they want to see something at, or I don't know, like 8 o'clock on Tuesday night and they want to see something at 11 the next morning and the showing time is open, you book it, but you have no idea if you need. So then I guess in that case, you would just run it two different ways and say, I don't know what the situation is. It could either fall into this category or this category. But,
yeah. And I think that's one of the flaws in this settlement is the distribution of information, because that's one of my biggest concerns I have. We have a lot of listings at our team, right? And imagine if we have to field a call every time everyone wants to show that. It's not it's a time suck, right? Like, I mean, you were at the meeting today where we talked about something that was a major time suck, right? All the resources get sent to these things and it becomes a real problem. So Sarah's having some technology issues here. It's happened to me before. When the phone call comes into your computer and everything starts to go off.
I'm not used to it.
It's stressful. It's happened to me before, so don't sweat it.
Right.
So I think that's going to be one of the challenges, but you're doing the right thing. Like, hey, I don't know what it is. I'm being very transparent here. Here's what it looks like.
And, like, from my point of view, where that's coming from is not, like, that's still client focused. It's not like, well, how am I getting paid? It's like, I want to have that information to share with you up front so that we know what to expect. And I think it still falls into the bucket of client first.
It absolutely does, because it's a charge they're going to be incurred that they may not be aware of. Nobody, like, if you go back to this article that Byron put together, I thought it was pretty smart. What does the consumer want? They want to know what it's going to cost them to buy a house.
Right.
And that one of the things I was trained on, I remember that one of the first buyers I worked with, it was, here's your cash to close and here's your monthly payment. And I would have this stuff, I didn't know how to calculate it. I was a brand new agent, so I would just circle it and say, hey, if we made this offer, here's what it would cost. If we made this offer, here's what it would cost. And I would have that stuff ready. And that's just proper prep work, because if they like the home, it's, they're not writing a check for $400,000 plus closing costs. That's usually not what happens. So in order to be that agent of change, I think it's really like, what do consumers want? So then you look at some of these like NAR home studies, right? The first thing consumers want is someone to help them find a house. And that's the number one thing people want from their buyer agent. So are you having that conversation besides putting them on an MLS strip? Like, are you going through that a little more? Are you talking about some way, because you've sold for sale by owners before, you've brought some, and you've wrote winning offers. That's part of finding the house, is actually getting the house. Are you breaking that down a little more up front? Like what
you mean like strategies for
just how you're going to help them and how you're going to get them what they want?
Yeah, I mean, and I think it's interesting because I don't have like one exact set way that I do things, because personality types are different. So I feel like I'm pretty good at being able to read like who needs how much information when, and kind of at what point to dole it out, you know? So for the people that maybe, don't want to hear every little bit of it from the beginning, then I kind of say like, this is like the general broad outline. As we come up to the different situations, I will break down piece by piece what is what and what your options are.
Well, and I think that's exactly what you want to do, because some people are going to be more informed than others, right? Like you get someone that knows about mortgages. They may have a friend in the business. They may be okay with that, and you're talking to something about that they already know. So I think that's really smart. And when you look at the NAR profile of home buyers and sellers, 90% of recent buyers found their real estate agent to be very or somewhat useful as a source of information. And
nice.
Finding the right home was the most difficult task at 59%. So that tells me the more options you can bring to the table and the more ways you can show people, here's ways for us to get properties. And it's not just, everyone thinks like immediately like you're door knocking and prospecting other listings, but there's networking with other agents, having good relationships about people coming to the market, being able to, leverage an organization where, I mean, we've had, I mentioned Ed from our team. I mean, he was able to put a deal together with somebody else on the team, and he was able to have a good conversation about it, where a normal agent might not have given that information, right? Like he's like letting him, like, hey, my seller is ready to negotiate. Let's get this offer in writing. And, that's the kind of stuff that you've really got to communicate really well. And so, I mean, 59%, that's a large amount, and that's their most difficult task. So, and then having an agent to help them find the right home was what buyers wanted the most at 50%. That's what they wanted from real estate agents. 43% used an agent who was referred to them, right? So, I mean, it's, are you working your network and understanding, are you providing value there? And, it's what you're talking about doing, Sarah. This is going to help you win more clients, because 71% of buyers, they only interview one agent. So there's a lot to go through here. And
I think also kind of knowing, and the longer I've been in this, the more true it holds. Like, this is not a short game. This is not I meet you and then like we're transacting and like, hooray, like there will be people that transact quickly. There will be others that you will be talking to for years, and like, that's fine. It's, everything is a long-term thing. And if you look at it from a short-sighted perspective, you will be having clients that go to other people because it's their timeline, not necessarily yours.
Well, and I mean, you're talking about the agents that treat people transactionally, right? And I think we've all seen that. And that's why we're seeing that there's a good amount of fallout in the business right now. I mean, if you look at some research that was done, and let me pull this up here. This was a pretty fascinating article that came out. I don't know where I saw it here, but it was from Relatics, who charts like agent movement data and some different things. And here we go. And based on that last year, we've seen a lot of agents like move between brokerages and stuff like that, but new agents are failing at an unprecedented level. And this report, what it shows here, and let me get the data, is, you know why? Because a lot of agents don't take the time to like, all right, this might not be a great business for me at the very beginning. I mean, I know what I did. I've shared that story with you. I mean, and then all of a sudden it starts to pop out of nowhere. So it's a very interesting time to look at this. And the more you focus on serving, I think it solves like 90% of your problems as an agent. If you're going to serve people and do the right thing, and you're willing to talk to them on the phone and make calls every day, I mean, this business isn't that hard. I think it's the hard part's being consistent with it.
Right. And I mean, I think that like karma is real, and like treat people right. And even if they don't end up transacting with you, maybe they'll think of you down the line and refer somebody to you. Like, come from a place of that, and I feel like it makes things easier and more genuine and a better experience.
Well, and sometimes what'll happen too, I don't know if this happened to you yet. I've gotten referred to people that didn't hire me. Like they refer me out afterwards, like we should have used you or something went wrong or whatever it was because I kept in touch and helped them. And I've also had a lot of clients who I was on the other side of the transaction with buy one of my listings that I had listed, and they're like, "Wow, we saw what a great job you did, and we're here to work with you now," even though they had a connection with somebody else or they didn't use us the first time. So you don't know who's watching, and that's why it's really important to be ready for these interview experiences. So, that serve mindset. I mean, this is why you're doing well, Sarah, and I think this is why most people on our team do well, is because the ones that buy into like, I'm here to help you.
Yeah,
might take a while.
Yeah,
I'm cool with that, and that really goes a long way. So we're going to take a quick break. We're going to come back. It's Memorial Day weekend coming up. Sarah's got her weekend all planned already, I'm sure. And we're going to be getting into what to do to get ready as a consumer and as an agent on a couple different methods here, whether you're planning on working, relaxing, doing a little bit of both. We'll break it all down next on Toole Time Real Estate Radio on WWDB 860 AM.
You shouldn't have to deal with all the red tape when getting your mortgage from a big or online bank. At Mortgage America, we have access to big bank money, but with the personalized and detailed service of a local bank. We are here in your community and ready to serve with fast settlements, low down payment options, and first-time homebuyer programs. Pre-approval is free, no costs or commitments. For more information, visit our website at mymortgageamerica.com or give us a call at 610-439-8000.
Mortgage America's equal housing lender. NMLS 128501.
The Tom Toole Sales Group is the #1 RE/MAX team in Pennsylvania with over $165 million in volume for 2021. I'm Tom Toole, and our team has achieved that kind of success by being a great place to work with and to work for. No one knows Greater Philly better than we do. We know real estate, but more importantly, we're real people. We hire the best agents, and we give them all the tools to succeed. Even our brand new agents sell 17 to 24 homes a year because our team delivers the best experience in real estate. Teams deliver a better experience than individuals, and we're a top 1% real estate team in the country. We call it AAA service. We're your advocate, ally, and advisor. Because this isn't a transaction to us, it's a relationship. If you're buying or selling a home, call the Tom Toole Sales Group at RE/MAX main line at 610-692-6976 or visit tomtoole.com. That's tomtoole.com. Sell your home for more, and remember the real estate golden rule. You always get more when you work with Tom Toole.
When you're getting a mortgage, you shouldn't have to sacrifice great service just to get a great rate. At Mortgage America, we've been lending with this philosophy for over 35 years. We have access to great low rates without the complications and delays of big or online banks. We're a local Pennsylvania lender with loan officers that you can actually meet. As PHFA's #1 lender, we specialize in all residential mortgage programs, including first-time buyer programs and low down payment options. For your free pre-approval, call us at 610-439-8000 or apply online at mymortgageamerica.com. Mortgage America's equal housing lender. NMLS 128501.
Have you considered a career in real estate? Do you want control over your income? Whether you have a license or not, call us today at 610-692-6976 or visit tomtoole.com. Join our team, the Tom Toole Sales Group at RE/MAX main line.
All right. Welcome back to Toole Time Real Estate Radio on WWDB 860 AM. I'm Tom Toole. She's Sarah Tymon. We both work at the Tom Toole Sales Group at RE/MAX Mainline, the #1 RE/MAX team in Pennsylvania since 2018. And we're going to talk about one of the things that I think everyone who is in the market right now, whether you're a real estate agent, you're a buyer, or you're a seller, should be prepared for, which is a holiday weekend. Because these things can go really one of two ways.
Yeah.
You can get some R&R, get a little relaxing done. It might be a little quiet. Or there are deals to be done. If you get some value out of this, make sure to subscribe to the channel, hit the bell for notifications, and if you want to see how we can help you navigate the Memorial Day weekend, you can schedule a call with our team with the link in the comments. So,
or there's the third one, which is the worst scenario.
What is the worst?
Which is where you were trying to have a weekend of R&R, you didn't properly set things up, and then you can't get any of the deals done, but you didn't get any R&R, and you're just like stressed out, and you're like, ah.
That is a great point. That's what we're going to help you avoid here, Sarah. That's the idea, because That's a lack of preparation, right? Has that ever happened to you before?
Yes.
It's happened to me before too. And I think we've all made these mistakes. Like I'm going on vacation. I think I got everything done. And then the first day I'm there, I'm like attached to my computer.
Well, and it's like, it is wild how all of a sudden, like, people that you've been trying to like connect with for like months, like it's the second that you go away that it's like, oh, hey, things have changed. Now I need to do something like this minute. Come over for a listing consultation and I want to buy this house. And it's like, I mean, it's a great call to get, but not if you like can't do it.
Not when you have plans with, we're both parents.
Yeah.
We have spouses. Like it doesn't go well, right? I mean, it's one thing if you're, single and that sort of thing. But even then, it's not good. So let's talk about how to prep. So you're planning on going away. It's the holiday weekend. You're going on the shore. You're going, for a long weekend away somewhere. What should agents be doing? What do you do to prep? I'm a big believer in having notifying people like if you're just figuring this out now, you got a limited amount of time. This is a call you need to start making like a couple weeks before.
Yeah. So I think there's a couple different parts to it. The first part is I think generally you kind of have your list of buyers that you're out running around with on the regular. So, looking at the what's coming up, what's going to be hitting the market for the time period that you're going to be gone, and then seeing if it's going to hit the market prior to you going out of town or being off, trying to get that scheduled in advance for before you go, and just knock that one out. And you kind of, I feel like oftentimes as you've been working with clients for a little bit, you kind of get in sync with when they're looking at properties, when they like to go, what's going to be what. So if you know that there could be an overlap or a conflict there, letting them know in advance so that you can try and, work schedules to ideally get out there beforehand. And then also having somebody on your team or another agent that if something does pop up, that you can get them out there.
Yeah, I'm a big believer in if you're going to plan to go away, proper preparation is going to help. And the consumers don't care. They will go.
They do not care.
They might find another agent. You might lose business
so fast.
and that's a bad business decision not to have any coverage if you're going to be out of the area. I think that's what you got to look at. I mean, it's one thing to maybe have a listing appointment or something like that come up. That's a little tougher. But especially on people, whether you've got an active listing or you've got active buyers, these people need to know who to go for. I'm a big believer in the vacation buddy. You mentioned it, Sarah, where you find out when they're going away, help them out, trade some favors. That can go a long way because the worst thing they can do is, hey, I'll call the listing agent, right? Well, guess what? Now with these new laws, I think come Labor Day, you better have a better plan in place because that's not going to work.
Yeah.
So that would be the first thing. If you're planning on going away, just make sure, like any other business, they have a plan when they're not in the area. You can't just walk away and hope that nothing happens. That's
right.
That's not a good business model. So I'm in total agreement with you there. That's how you avoid the situation Sarah talked about. Mm-hmm. The flip side of this, Memorial Day and Labor, they're kind of weird holidays because kids are still in school. Mm-hmm. Although I never went to school this late. I was usually done by Memorial Day. I don't ever remember this, but this is a new thing.
Yeah.
So, but that doesn't matter.
Yeah.
It's 2024. That was too long ago. So I'm a big believer if you're around, there's an opportunity to get some homes under contract. And there's an opportunity. I know Brian, our sales manager, he put his 2 highest priced homes under contract both on Memorial Day weekend. Yeah. Because there's some people that are going to be around and are going to be local. And if you got a client that sees a new listing, there's going to be some people that are sleeping, the other buyers. You might be able to kind of sneak in and get an offer accepted. So how do you still compartmentalize that? Do you just, you're only available some days? Do you tell the clients this? How do you operate so you can still get some R&R in, but also go do some business if the opportunity arises?
Yeah, I mean, I think know what time period for the weekend that you're nope, this is when I'm doing something for me or with my friends or with my family or whatever. And then for the other time windows that you would be open to going out, to working, to doing things, those are the times that you offer when if somebody calls or if a property pops up that would be the right fit for your client. Be proactive, reach out to them, but offer them the times that you can do it.
We did a video about this. We can't link to the show here, but it was with Ashley from our team where she's a newer agent and she's like, oh, they wanted to see the home at 3:00 and I can't do it. And it was a pretty high-priced lead. And she's like, who wants this? And I called her, and I'm like, here's the script. I'm not available then. I can do this time or that time. Which one's better for you?
Yeah.
You're going to control your calendar. That script is one of the, I learned that when I was like my second, third year in the business, and I was always the one to meet anyone, anywhere.
Yeah.
And you kind of feel pressure like that too sometimes.
Right. Well, and you always have this like fear of like, if I don't do it exactly at that time, they're going to go to somebody else and they're going to like blah, blah,
Yep.
blah. But sometimes they're just suggesting that time because all right, backtrack. In some instances, that is the only time that they can see it, like
For
with their
sure.
schedules or with whatever. Other times, they could do other times. They just like threw out a time, and it's just as convenient for them to do a different time.
Yeah, well said. And I think that's where you got to, and the home may not even be available then. That's the other
Right,
thing people don't
right.
realize. So when it comes to this, what I'd be doing is I'd be looking at, here's when I'm working, here's when I'm not. And what everyone should be doing, and this is probably the most important thing written played out here, you should be calling your hot buyers and your hot sellers once a week anyway, and they should know about this. So a preemptive call on like a Tuesday, hey, if you want to see anything, I'm around Saturday if you want to go look at it, or whatever that's going to be.
Yeah.
Because you should be in constant communication with these folks so they don't go away. So avoid situation number 3.
Yeah.
Do a little prep. Call your clients this week, and this works for 4th of July, when you're going on vacation, Labor Day, the week of the holiday. It doesn't matter. This is a skill you want to get down because everyone deserves some time off. So that's it for this week's episode. You want to follow Sarah? She's on Instagram at Ty_TyTime. That's TY_TYTIME. You can follow me at Tom Toole 3RD at Tom Toole 3rd. And we'll be back next week on Tool Time Real Estate Radio on WWDB 860 AM.